Hi everyone, comic book reviewer here. This time reviewing on Ducktales 2017 Woohoo episode review. And as you know, much like Tangled Before Ever After, as well as the Big Hero 6 sort of premiere episode, the first episode of Ducktales also got the sort of DVD format thing, and the way I kind of saw both the Big Hero 6 premiere as well as the Ducktales episode Woohoo was a bit like a sort of TV movie. And the way I kind of see Woohoo is a bit like an animated version of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And yeah, the 2017 reboot is meant to be a reboot of the original DuckTales cartoon that ran from 1987 all the way to 1990. And I think that the DuckTales 2017 reboot is a reboot done right. Much like the 2002 He-Man cartoon, much like Spectacular Spider-Man, and much like Star Wars Clone Wars. So the premise of the episode is meant to feature Donald Duck, who has to leave his three nephews, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, with their sort of estranged uncle, Uncle Scrooge McDuck. And I think Scrooge, at least in this reboot, definitely worked, because he was meant to be this big, once sort of hotshot legend, and now kind of lives by himself, along with Brinkley as well as Webby. And I think having Huey, Dewey, and Louie's personalities be a bit more different does work. Like Huey being a bit more of an organizer, Dewey being kind of the impulsive one at times, and Louie kind of being a bit greedy, but at the same time a bit of a con artist. And we kind of see how they slowly learn more about their Uncle Scrooge McDuck, as well as their Uncle Donald. And I think for the most part, I think they do actually do well, I think, with the first episode. Like, kind of showing how Donald is a bit more reluctant about leaving Huey, Dewey, and Louie with Scrooge. And you can tell there's some history between them that we obviously know if you've watched the TV series. And you can kind of tell Donald is a little untrustworthy of Scrooge. And I think when you do have the newer personalities for Webby and Brinkley, I think they do work. Like such as Brinkley being a bit more like of the voice of reason for Scrooge and trying to get him to sort of understand things, and Webby wanting to know more about the McDuck family tree and not being kind of a crybaby or whining nuisance. And we kind of see how after a series of events that happened, kind of gets Scrooge's interest back into adventure. And we kind of see how, yeah, Scrooge, the nephews, and Launchpad journey to find the lost jewel of Atlantis. And the way I see the sort of first episode is like an animated version of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Because, yeah, Scrooge is obviously meant to be Indiana Jones going on one big adventure and showing people that he's basically still got it. And I think, yeah, you also do kind of have, like, Dewey trying to be a bit like Indiana Jones' son Mutt, trying to prove himself and not trying to be the guy who's caught in the sidelines. And I think, obviously, yeah, Glomgold is kind of like the Russian Soviet villain known as Irena. And I think, yeah, when you also do have Donald, I think he's obviously meant to be George McHit Hale, who kind of ends up joining the villains by mistake, and unlike George, actually doesn't suffer the same fate as him. And I kind of think, yeah, when you do have the first hints of the Spear of Selene, as well as Dewey sort of seeing the picture of his mum, is where it's going to kick up the first story arc of Season 1, where Huey, Dewey, and Louie will slowly learn more about what happened to their mum, why Donald doesn't trust Scrooge, and obviously it's going to build up to other characters throughout season 1 that we're going to see. And I think, yeah, having Glomgold sort of in the first episode does work. You can tell he's trying to outdo Scrooge. He's trying to prove himself better. And you know it's going to kind of have this big reveal why he hates him, why he feels like he's the superior one. And I think for the first episode, yeah, I do see it like an animated version of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It feels a little similar, but yeah, it does feel like Dial of Destiny has a bit of a similar premise, even though it's not going to be released just yet. And I think the first episode does work. Like, it's got Easter eggs, it's going to mention, like, Cape Suzette, as well as St. Canard from Tailspin and Darkwing Duck. And we obviously are going to see those sort of locations in the next 2 seasons. And I think for the most part, the first episode of Ducktales gives you the introduction to what you're going to get, what the sort of first episode is going to bring some of the pieces together. So I think this one definitely deserves a thumbs up. Still good and still alright. So, Comic Reviewer here, signing out.